Okay, we're gonna take another stab at making a plugin. This one's going to be quite simple as well. Just to give you an idea of how to build windows and about window placement. So let's just make a new plugin file. We'll call this variable window.js. So what I like to do is at the top of a plugin, I like to just use the same the same setup or the same layout that some of these example plugins give you. So I just copy this, paste it into the top, and I will call it variable window. And then I can either copy or I can just type out some metadata. This is mostly all the same, just with slight tweaks. So really, you can just copy and paste this from another one that you've done. But from the too much gold example, you can just copy this. Let's see, plugin description. It's going to say creates a simple window to display a variable value. And we'll say and icon, optional icon. So that explains what we're going to do. We're going to create a window, and all it does is displays a variable and an optional icon if we choose to. So really simple stuff again, but also really handy. If you wanted a second currency or something like that, this could be useful. So yeah, we've got some stuff here. Oh yeah, there's also a help. I think it's just like that. And you can type out a longer description, or if your code uses note tags or something, you can add all this here. But I don't think we'll need that right now. All right, so we do that self-invoking function again. So this is purely just a remember syntax thing. I think this is a lambda expression, which means this is technically the function here, and then this is the code that runs inside the function, and then this is just telling it to run the function. So self-invoking function. So some other things that we've already done, we will set plugin name. We'll call it variable window, the same as the file name. We will use parameters, so we may as well get that started. Plugin manager dot parameters plugin name. But we don't have any parameters yet, so we'll just leave the rest of that blank. Okay, I think that's us ready to start looking into what we're trying to do here. So, I probably want to do this before forgetting. I will just add the variable window plugin to our project. So we've got two options. We can either try and build everything from scratch, or you can just use what you're already given and make amendments. Or you can kind of do something in between where you take something that already exists and then you just change it. You use what's there, but you change it into something else. So which window should we use? we could either start with our own window entirely and then base it on window base by doing this object create using inheritance. And we should probably do that, I guess, since this is looking into how we build windows and things. So what I would say is window gold. Well, this is funky because it begins with window selectable, which is not really what we want. Okay, well, let's just copy this. May as well copy this as well, and paste it into your code. So now we need to change all instances of window gold, and you can either do that just by alt clicking and then change it here, or you can do search and replace. So window variable display. The window for displaying a chosen variable. So this is our constructor function. It's required so that we can use new window underscore variable display to create it. Our prototype is essentially where are we starting from? Well, we don't want to start from window selectable. We want to start from window base. And then we have already set the constructor to our window, which is great. We don't need to run window selectable because we don't start with window selectable, so that can go, and so can window refresh. We need to check window base to see if it has some sort of initialize. So a lot of the development I do with this system, I'll try and find something that already uses window base, and then I can just see what they're loading and what they're not. But essentially, that's just me using a shortcut for just looking at what window base uses. And what I mean by that is, if we want to run some code in initialize, we need to check if window base does anything with initialize itself. Because when we create this window, it takes on all the properties and methods of window base to begin with before we start making changes. So if we then say, I want to have my own initialize method here, well, that means we're overwriting window base. So we may need to still run window base initialize, which I will just grab, paste that in here because we still want it to run. This is like our aliasing. So we pass in this for context, which is our window variable display, and the function expects rect. So we also paste that in. Okay. So at the moment, we have created a window that once it starts, it essentially has nothing in it, but we've set up the foundations so that we will be able to see a window. Yeah, it just won't have anything in it. It'll be a functional empty window. But we have no way of actually using this at the moment. Normally there are scenes that will create windows. That's how this works. Now, what do we want to do with this window? Well, I think it'd be quite nice if we could just display it on the screen at some point. when the developer calls it. And it seems like that a massive majority of developing for RPG Maker is just trying to figure out where you can hook your code into. So if you were doing something with combat, you want to run an effect when you deal damage, it's all about trying to find out where that single point is where you calculate dealing the damage so that you can hook your effect in there. So in our example with we want to show a window on the screen, there's got to be somewhere in the code where windows are loaded on the scene map that can then be used on the scene map. And this will just take a bit of getting used to. This will take some time reading through the code, just trying things out, and yeah, you'll get better at being able to read through existing code and finding out where you can hook your code into. But I've had a little look, and I think it's probably scene map, and I did find something to do with create windows here. It may have been on scene message, but as we know, scene map is a subclass of scene message. So that means scene map has access to all of this as well. Oh, there we go. Create all windows. And in here it does things like creating gold window, create name box window, message window. So I think this is what we want to copy, and we want to alias this to create our variable window. So we copy this whole function or method, and we have to create another. You don't have to create this little header, but it's a nice way of breaking up your code and being able to read where stuff's coming from. So there we go, scene message. So obviously we don't want to overwrite this because then all this stuff will be gone. So we need to do what we've done before. We alias this by creating some kind of distinctive name that is very unlikely that something else will use. So the usual naming convention again, I do just lol for Loric, and then some kind of reference to what the plugin is. So VW for variable window, and then using underscores between everything. Even when it says dots, I just use underscores. So scene message, and then create all windows. I'll just copy this, equals that. And then I can put my own little bit of code here and say create variable display window. You can get rid of all this existing code and just call the alias. Remember to pass in this. So I'm pretty sure this is all stuff we've seen before. We're just creating a new method here that is on this, which is scene message. Now, I don't think this name is very intuitive or self-explanatory, but scene message is one of the base classes that makes up the scene map. So if you want to draw something on the map, you can hook into this create all windows, create your window, and then at some point you can probably run a scene map dot show variable window or something like that. We'll create it. So here we go. So now we need to create our own method on the scene message class. Create variable display window. So if we're not certain what to do, as always, one of the best things you can do is just look at existing code and see how they've done it. So we come here, create all windows. Let's just see the create gold window. So this is something we have seen before, I'm pretty sure. You create the rect, which is a position on the screen. It's a rectangular position, well, rectangular area on a screen. And that is from the method just below, gold window rect. So we'll go over that, but let's just step over it for now. Then it's setting a variable, and this is the standard. Underscore, something, and then window. So our one is variable variable display. So we would do underscore variable display window. And then they create that with the constructor function, passing in the arguments. Hopefully it's starting to come together. This openness, that's just something that's to do with windows, as in how visible is the window. It's set to 0, which means when you show the window, it'll almost be like a little animation of the window opening, as in becoming more visible. So that's what that is. We don't have to do that for our window, but maybe we want to, just for a little bit of flair. And then importantly at the end, they append the window to the scene. Add window, and then pass in the window. And this ensures that the window is loaded, hidden and shown, refresh, any of that sort of stuff usually comes from adding it to the scene. Also, for cleanup, I'm pretty sure that adding the window to this, when the scene is destroyed, that means when you change scene or you get rid of the scene by destroying it, it will also clean up your window, as in get rid of it. So let's copy both of these. Yeah, we'll just copy both of these because this is probably quite similar to what we're looking for. So we'll just pop it in there. And we've already created this create, so we'll just take the code out of the gold window and put it in there. And then we don't want to create the gold window rect, we want to do variable display window rect because we will set up our own rect for this. Variable display window rect. So then we have to update this to say variable display window. And I'll just get rid of the openness for now. And then here, when we are making a new window, make sure it's our own one. Window variable display. So at the moment, because we got rid of that openness value, I think this this might just be visible on the map now when we load it. So before we change any of this, let's just give it a try and see if something's on the screen now. Might not be, but it might be. Okay, there we go. So there is our custom window. So let's keep that on the screen whilst we load up the code again. So how do we get this in the top corner like that? Well, there's going to be some mathematics involved, not too bad, so hopefully you can stick with it. I don't know what your maths level is. So the window width, WW, window width, window height, window X position, which is horizontally across the screen, and then the window Y position, which is the vertical position up and down. So how wide is the window? It is equal to the size that this method returns. So let's see what scene message main command width is. Oh, wrong place. We've got a scene. Right, let's try and find main command width. Main command width. We'll keep clicking until we get the origin. here we go. So it's scene base, which is it's just a class, but using inheritance, a lot of scenes, or maybe all scenes, will build upon scene base. So all it does is returns 240, which is, I believe, is pixels. So this main command width will just return the width of 240. So we could probably measure this, but I'm willing to just trust that this is 240 pixels wide. That's how we get the width. So the window height. Well, it's got another function here. It's calc window height, which you can assume means calculate the window height. And it passes in 1, which I would guess means one single line height. So this is one row of text. If we put in, let's put in 2 and reload. Suddenly it looks like it's about 2 lines worth of text. And as you can imagine, we'll put in 3. Yeah, now we've got 3 lines worth of height. So you don't have to declare a height this way. You can put in just a number like the main command width does for the width. But this is a pretty easy or simple way of getting a window that fits exactly the contents that you want to put into it. So if you know for certain you want 3 lines of text inside this window, then you can use this .calc window height, pass in 3, and then this second bit is just a little bit more to learn really, but you can essentially put any number in here and you will get the correct window height. So this second part, let's find out what this means. If you don't understand what it means, all you need to do is try and find this function. So calc window height, go back to scenes, put in calc window height, and here we go. So the function takes in a parameter that is number of lines, which is what we expected, but then selectable. It takes in a variable called selectable, and it says if selectable is true, so we've seen if statements before, if selectable is true, return window selectable fitting height number of lines. If it's not selectable, it returns window base fitting height. So I don't know the specifics here, but it seems like depending on which type of window your window is based upon. So if your window is a subclass of window selectable, you want to put true because the height is going to be different. If your window does not use window selectable and it is purely a window base, then you want to use false in this second parameter because it will then return the correct fitting height for the window base. So this is how you start to learn the system. You simply have to find what it's trying to do, and then you can read what parameters it wants, and then you can logically go through the code and say, okay, why does it do this? Why does it do that? And you can go even deeper if you want. We can look at fitting height for window selectable. We can look at fitting height for window base and try and understand why they're different. We're not going to do that right now. You can do that if you want. So just going back, this is how we get the window's height. So far, all makes sense. And we are technically using window base rather than window selectable. So let's just choose false and see what happens. Okay, it looks a little bit smaller. So I think the point here is on a selectable window, it wants a little bit of space for a down arrow and an up arrow. Maybe that's the difference because the fitting height for a base window just looks that bit tighter, a little bit smaller or shorter. Okay, so the window X position. This is where there's a little bit of logic at play. So graphics dot box width. what can we assume that is? Well, I've seen this similar type of thing in coding before, where graphics or screen or something like that, usually it's the entire width of the screen. So it looks like this is saying the X position where we want to start drawing the window is the entire width of the screen, but minus the width of the window. So let's think that through logically. If you don't quite get it yet, we're starting around here at 0. We will go the entire distance across, that's the box width, but then we go back 240, and that gives us the correct starting position to draw our window. So it's a bit easier for Y. We're saying nothing. So the Y starts at the very top of the screen, and we say we don't want to go down anything to start drawing the window from the top. So our rect is saying start from here, go down this much height, go along this much width. And that's it. That's how you get this window drawn on the screen. The actual window drawing part is handled by the window base or the window prototype, something like that. If we check window base, see window base is what everything runs on, but even window base comes from another subclass or comes from another class, sorry. So I think this window class is either just a way of gathering all windows together, but I'm muddying the water. Essentially, this window base is going to handle all of the intricate code of actually drawing a window. All we've got to do is use what we were given and then manipulate it. So that's why we start off with window base or whatever window you are inheriting from. Let that handle all the difficult code, and then we just build on top of that. It's as easy as that. So here we have a scene message that creates our window. But right now we don't want to use the window. So one thing that I think we can do is just say this variable display window dot hide, and then that is a function. So we call it like that. Now I'm not actually certain if this will work, so I do want to test. I believe hide and show are the methods we use to show and hide windows. So let's just make sure that that works with the way I've set this up. Yep, okay, the window is gone. So what happened there is, as soon as we create the window, we are then hiding the window. And then later on, we will create some kind of method that will show the window. So we can show and hide the window on command. Well, yeah, we've essentially done what the point of this video was. We have created our own window, but it doesn't do anything yet. So let's see. I did say before that generally we use a refresh method to update the contents or the visibility of the window, or not the visibility, just the contents of the window. So we'll say variable display prototype dot refresh, and so again we must make sure that this refresh is not overwriting the window base refresh. So let's have a look. Window base, we will just type this out. Window base dot prototype dot refresh. So that's not it, that's something else. So it looks like we're safe. We're fine to use refresh. We don't need to run we don't need to run any sort of calls like this. So what do we want to do inside this refresh? Well, we want to draw a variable and maybe an icon. So it's time to set up some parameters like what we did in the previous video. And again, there's no real need to always hard type out everything just as you go. If you think you'll learn better by typing it all out, then by all means type it out. But I'm just going to copy and paste and then change it. So we want a variable ID because let's have a look at what we're going to do. Here we have control variables, and then we can set whatever variable we want here. What should we call this? Gems. We'll call it gems. This will be like a second currency. We'll set it to 0, but we don't actually want to do anything. We just want to know that this is gems. This is variable 1. So we need a way of referencing variable 1. So that's why I would say we need a parameter that stores the variable ID. So again, param, this is the name that is like a variable. It's a variable name. This is the visible text that the user will read. And then you have some sort of description of what it does. Display in the window. The ID of the variable. We do want it to be a number, but we'll default it to 0, which I think would probably break the system, but it's fine. We're gonna set it anyway. Alright, so variable, we're gonna have to set that, but now that we've created the parameter here, we need to get the parameter down here. So again, I'm just gonna copy something we've already got and then reuse it, which is a big part of coding. Be careful when copy and pasting. You must remember to go back and change anything you were supposed to change. If you copy and then paste 10 different lines and you forget to change all 10 lines to update to the new updated information, then you're just giving yourself bugs to fix later on. So here we go. We'll say variable ID. This is all stuff we've done in the past video. So we create a variable called variable ID. I'm making it const and doing the screaming notation or whatever this is called. This is just a signifier that this value won't change. Okay, so we have caught the variable ID like that. Okay, so now we want to draw some contents to this window. We have the variable ID, and we need some way of writing text to the screen. So within refresh, we need to look for something that will let us put text on the screen. And we probably remember from a previous video, draw text will handle that. So let's copy that line there. You can actually just copy this anywhere that you get it's fine. So it's going to be this dot draw text. Just put in some dummy value for now. So because we're only working with a base window, we don't really have access to get item rect for line or any of these sort of handy methods for getting a rect for us. But we can just use 0 and 0 because there is only one line we're drawing, so this is fine. We do need to figure out the width of the window. So let's see, we just type in window base dot prototype width, nothing like that. Item width, think. Oh, there we go. So just by really looking down window base, you can kind of guess. This says item width and it returns this inner width. So that's fairly straightforward. That's an easy one to guess. So we'll do this item width. Um, this line height. Yeah, that seems fine. There might be a better draw text for our example. Since we're only drawing on one line anyway, maybe you don't even need a lot of this stuff, but we'll go with it for now. And then alignment, we're going to go right because we want it to mimic currency. We want to start on the right hand side and then work its way up the bigger it gets. So if we want to test this, we'll notice something. The window's gone because we put in that put in that piece of code that hides the window. So here's a good example of using a comment just temporarily. So we put the two slashes in front of this line and it means it won't do it anymore. So this is a good way of very quickly just checking, oh, let's see if our text is drawn to the screen before we carry out this hide method. But then we'll realize something else. Well, other than this icon being in the way, which we can fix, it doesn't look like it's drawn anything onto the screen. So let's comment out this line. We'll temporarily, or maybe not temporarily, we'll create something else here. Maybe a better one would be, let's change the Y value so it draws below that. I don't know if one window height will do it or if that little button is bigger. But we can try. We can try putting in WH here. Okay, so you can see roughly this is one window height or one line height, and we have said start drawing along the Y position down one of this window height. So you can see that roughly one of those window height has been skipped and then we've drawn underneath. So yeah, there's a little bit more window manipulation, but the glaring problem is there's nothing drawn to the screen, even though we've told it. This draw text, just draw 0 to the screen, nothing happened. Well, we're not actually calling refresh. We haven't told it to draw anything. So in initialize, we will call this dot refresh, and now it is drawing. For some reason, it's drawing it on the left, which is, I'm not really sure why. Maybe I'm using the wrong version of draw text. Yeah, I've got some height here, which is probably not what we're looking for. So let's take out the height. I thought that was strange. I don't know if this will fix the problem, but it might. Okay, that was a strange problem then. Right, so this is the version of draw text we want, with text, an X, a Y, a width, and then the alignment. Alright, so we've got our window on the screen, we've got it drawn a value. Now we need to make it draw our value rather than just a value. So let's create this person here. They're going to set gems equal to 50. So when we click on them, our value should change to 50. Okay, well, This isn't our value, so nothing changed. And also we're not updating it anyway. So how do we do that? Well, before we draw, let's say const variable value is equal to, and we've maybe not seen this global variable before, but I believe it's game variables. So if we look at the manager, the managers.js file, all the way up at the top, here are the global variables available to us. And we see one here called game variables. And you've got one also for game switches here. So, how do we use game variables? The way that I learned how to use all of this stuff is by looking at the existing code. So if we want to learn how to use game variables, let's go to one of these pages and just see if we can find something that uses it. So paste in game variables, nothing here. Oh, there's underscore data, which doesn't seem like the one. Oh, game variables dot value and then some kind of variable ID. So this looks like it returns a value. So this will be how we get a value, but we still want to find out how to set a value. So we'll keep looking. Oh, game variables dot set value, and then we've got an ID and then a value. Great. So we're going to actually I don't know if I don't think we're using set variable, but it's nice to see that that's how we would do it. Let's just grab the one to get a value, paste it in here, and then what is the variable ID we want? Well, we've stored it up here, so we can just put that in there. So now this const variable value has the value of the variable that we have passed in as a parameter. Seems straightforward so far. Game variables is an object, and I believe it has a method on it called value. So you're just calling this method value, and you're passing in variable ID as a parameter, and it will return the value stored inside of it. So again, it's all stuff that we've seen. It's just being used in slightly different ways or with little dollar signs. But yeah, mostly stuff that we've just seen anyway. So now we have variable value. We just want to use it here. So one way we could do that is just by saying variable value, and it will automatically change that from being a number into being some text. Another way we can do it is by using the backticks like that, and then dollar open curly bracket and then close curly bracket after it. So what this does, it's quite handy. It's a way of slotting in variables into a string. So the reason this is good, it's not that handy when you're doing it with just one value. But say you want lots of values, you can just put them in here. You can say maybe it's hour, and then it'll be minute, and then it'll be second. So like a time message. You will insert your hour, put in a little colon as a string, then put in the minute, put in another colon, and then a second. So you can just very easily make strings or pieces of text with variables lined through it. So yeah, that's just another way you can do it. Okay, so this only works now if we open the window and then nothing changes while the window is open. So just to show that that is actually true, we need to create a way of opening and closing this window on demand. So we'll get rid of this again because we do want the window to hide immediately when when the game first loads. Now we can use a script call. Let's put it down here. So this isn't the way we're going to do it in the end, but this is probably how we'll get to it. Say scene manager underscore scene. Now this is a reference to the current scene. So ideally you want to do some kind of checks to make sure you are on the scene map before calling these script calls. Otherwise you might get some kind of error. But yeah, we can do scene manager dot scene dot this is it variable display window. So if you think of dot scene holds the contents of scene map, which holds the contents of scene message. So we have access to this variable display window, and we can call refresh. You know, a better way of doing this, let's catch the scene in a variable. Or let's catch the window in a variable. And we'll just set it equal to our variable display window. Then we can call window.refresh and then window.show. So I hope you understand what we're doing here. We are creating a new variable called window. We are then accessing scene manager dot underscore scene, which is just whichever scene is active. So if you are on scene equip, then dot underscore scene will be scene equip. If you're on the map, this will be scene map. And then we are accessing our variable display window, which is just what we created in the scene here. Variable display window equals new variable display. That's all this is. So when we call .show and .hide, we are calling it on our created window. And also we're calling refresh there because we want to update to the latest value. But I guess we could hijack the show and hide methods to automatically, or I guess not the hide, but we can hijack the show method to automatically refresh. But for now, this is fine. So if we go up and talk to the lady, and then we come down and talk to the pig, she should give us 50 gems, and the pig should bring up the window. So let's, oh, you know what? I didn't update the plugin. So here we go. Variable ID is going to be 1. So we'll talk to the lady, show the window, there's 50. Let's talk to the lady. Ah. Oh, you know what? I think we're setting it. We're not adding 50. Yeah, there we go. So let's add 50 gems because then we can show the window constantly getting higher. So there, it's got 0. We'll talk to the lady. Got 50. Got 100. 150. Oh, what's happening there? It's drawing on top again. And this is the same issue we saw with the gold plugin. So let's check. What do we do? This content's clear. We need to clear out what is currently in the window before we draw any more. It's the same problem. So let's just pop it in the top of refresh, clear the contents, get a value, and then put it in there. So let's just check again. 50, 100, 150, and yep, looks like it's actually working this time. But it's kind of annoying having to constantly refresh like this. But I guess we can get to that. That's maybe more of an advanced. I don't know if it's maybe an advanced piece of coding. We can go over it anyway. Maybe you're already there and you just need to see it. So okay, so we've got a rough way of refreshing the window and showing it. So instead of this being in a script call like this, we can just put this in a script call somewhere in our code. So let's create our own object here. We'll do var so that the object gets hoisted, which is maybe not something you're familiar with, but let's go with it. So var variable window equals variable window or empty object. So what we're doing here is saying if this already exists, just make this equal that. But if it doesn't exist, we'll create a new object. Just a neat way of handling that. And then we will create a function here that says um, yeah, maybe we can just do show. Maybe show is good enough. And then we'll do one for hide. So what we're doing here is just creating our own object that has methods we can use just anywhere. So we can show or we can hide our variable window. So we want to take this code. Let's see if we can pop in here. That should be fine. And then in here we'll do something similar, but instead of refreshing, we can just hide it. I hope this isn't too coding heavy and I'm losing people. But essentially we are building out this whole plugin which involves creating a window and then putting a bit of logic behind it. A lot of this is just what we've done before. I keep saying that. We have an object, we're creating methods on the object, and then we run some code. That's all we're doing. Just adding slight differences as we go. Like scene manager, probably never used that before. Well, now we are. But all we're doing is this is either a class or an object, I'm not quite sure. And on that, we have access to underscore scene, which is just whichever scene we are currently in. And then I'm assuming we're only calling this from the map. If you don't, it will error. There are ways to stop that from happening, but we don't need to do that right now. We're still just learning. So can we just use this now? Let's talk to the pig. Let's see, variable window dot show. Can we just use that? And sadly, no, not defined. We don't know what this is. So a piece of code that I found that not really, yeah, I think it is window dot variable window equals variable window. So I believe window in this context is the actual game. So this entire game that runs right now is in a variable called window. So when we attach something to window, it just means it now understands how to use it, which that's definitely something a bit tricky to get your head around. But that's something I only found out about recently, that this version of window, not this one, this is something we made. This version of window is the entire game client, I guess. And we can console that out. Let's console out window. Let's just have a look around. This should probably be its own video entirely. So window holds all of the global data. It holds audio manager, battle manager, all these things we've seen, color manager. It holds all the actions, all the game classes. Holds all the scenes, holds all the sprites and windows. Window is literally the whole game. So what we do when we say window dot variable window is we're just giving the window our object. We're giving it access to our object. So that's something that I would say you don't really need to know how that works right now. You just need to know that window is the whole game, and we're saying if someone uses this variable window code here, make it equal to the thing we've set up. Yeah, probably haven't explained that very well, but it's just how it works. So now that window has access to variable window, you can just do show and then hide. If you say there's my window, now it's gone. Okay, 100 gone, 300 gone. So this isn't obviously the use case for this. The use case would be if you want to do some kind of event where you give them a choice of if they want to spend their gems or not, then you would say, do you want to buy this sword for 100 gems? You would show the window, ask them that question, give them a choice, yes or no. If yes, then you would do some sort of check. Nice, here's the sword. In here you would do a conditional branch to make sure they actually have enough gems for the sword. Nice, here's the sword, or suit yourself. But then at the end, you would call hide. You know what? Let's actually build it out to show you how I think it would work. If gems is greater than or equal to 100, nice. Here's the sword. You know what? We probably want a refresh as well. So let's say variable window dot refresh equals. So again, this is all just stuff you've seen, so I'm kind of skating over it. We'll grab the window and we'll grab refresh and just pop it in here. We're not hiding or showing, we're just refreshing. So then we can use that in here somewhere. Let's change the variable, subtract 100, Then we update the window and we say, nice, here's a sword. And then that's the end of the event and we hide the window, or you can't afford it. And then we end, or suit yourself, and then we end. So let's have a look. So we're no longer just showing and hiding in a sort of player manual way. So here we go, we've clicked and it's shown our window. We'll say no, suit yourself, the window goes away. That's how I see this being used. If we say yeah, it's updated to 200 and then it goes away. So that's your alternate currency script in use, showing, hiding, refreshing the window, all doing that from the map. And so to tie this all up, or to tidy up a little bit, we'll say show icon. Should there be an icon in the window? So this will be Boolean, and this is kind of funky the way that this works. So we'll say true by default, but it's a little bit tricky how we actually get a Boolean out of this. So we'll say show icon So we can't really just do this because show icon is a piece of text that says true or false. So this will be either true or it will be false like that. So the way we turn this into an actual Boolean is by saying if this value is strictly equal to the string true, then this will be true. If it's not equal to true, then this will be false. The actual Boolean value, not just a string. So then we can use that in refresh and say if show icon, if this is true, then do something within here. Again, we've done if statements. This is saying if this value is true, run the code within this block. So we're going to go back to window base, and I'm sure there's something like draw icon. Yep, this dot draw icon, and it takes an index and an X and Y position to draw the icon at. So let's just copy this, or I guess we can copy that part. We'll say this dot draw icon. So I hope it's coming together the way that I develop in this. It's very much how do they use it, and then how can I use that to do something that I want. So we've got icon index and X and Y. Again, the X and Y is just going to be 0 because we've only got one line anyway. And then icon index, we should give the user some way of inputting this through a parameter. So we'll just say icon index, the ID of the icon to display in the window. So it's going to be a number and it will default as 0. Just copy this line, icon index, yep, we can default to 0 just like that. So this is just doing the same thing we've done before, but for a different number. And then when we're drawing the icon, we just pass in the icon index we've been given in the parameter. And I think that's probably it. Make sure we update the script. I have no idea what they are. Let's put in 16. We'll say true, it should show an icon. So there's something. I don't know if that's correct or not. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Oh, 16 is a blank one. Just a. Oh well then. Let's choose a gem or something. There we go. 303. So we'll say 303. There is. We got our little gem window. 50 gems. We say yeah. He says you can't afford this. The window goes away. Make sure there's no console logs. All right, so this has been a long one. It probably covers more than the single issue that I've been trying to do in videos. We've built a whole other plugin. Very simple idea. It just displays a message on the screen. This can be advanced in many ways. You probably want to have some way of automatically being able to update this window. You would probably do that by checking if the value has changed and then calling refresh. But if you plan on using it like I showed in this game, then it works absolutely fine as is. Yeah, in these show and hide and refresh methods, you probably want to have some kind of check here to say only perform this if we are on the map. But you know, it's fine. It's fine for now. So yeah, this is probably the more advanced of the videos I've done so far in this series. I hope you understand it. Um, you could always go through it a couple of times just to kind of solidify something. Yeah, we've created a window. We are putting contents into the window and we are updating the window. I'm happy with this. Um, thanks for watching. I'm not certain what I'll do next for the learning JavaScript with RPG Maker MZ series. Maybe I can go into creating our own custom scenes. I guess we've done Windows, it's probably logical to move on to that next. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and bye bye.